Welcome back, you guys, to another episode on the podcast. And today you have me, myself, and I, and we're going to talk about something that a lot of women are dealing with in recovery, but are not exactly talking about it out loud. And it feels like kind of living in your head during recovery where you're having these moments of doubt, moments of self-criticism, moments of just not giving yourself grace at all. And it's crazy because a recovery should be so straightforward, like eat more, rest more, right? Do the right thing, do what period recovery is required. And it's hard enough alone to eat more, rest more when the rest of the world is like eating less and moving more. But you have that portion of recovery. And then you have what's called the living in your head and what's happening in your mind all day long while you're doing it. And at the middle end of the podcast, I'm going to share some examples of like real life stuff that's happening with some of my clients. But these looping thoughts, the constant checking, the trying to predict the future, the fear that this isn't working fast enough, or maybe it's not working at all. I don't know about you guys, but in most cases, like if I do something, if I follow the rules of like going to college, passing the test, like I expect a degree. But with period recovery, it's like eat more, rest more, follow the rules. When am I going to get the degree? Could you imagine if you went to college and that happened? It'd be a complete mind F, right? And so right now you might be living in a mind F. And I wanted to create this episode because I see this too often and I see this be something that holds so many women back from getting their periods. So women come into period recovery thinking maybe the hardest part is going to be the eating or resting, the gaining weight, the cutting back on exercise, changing of routines. And those can absolutely feel hard. But for so many women, what ends up being hard, if not harder, is what's happening inside their mind all day long. The mental checking, the overanalyzing, the wondering if they're doing enough, the questioning if they're doing too much, the trying to read every sign from their body like it means something about whether this is working or not. I even remember a time when I did that, and it's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. And what makes period recovery especially hard is that for many of you, this may be the very first time in your life where you cannot overachieve your way to results. And what I mean by overachieve, it's not like, oh, I'm not an overachiever. If you are a rule follower, that's kind of what I mean. Not same thing, but overachiever or rule follower, your way to the result. And what I mean by that is, okay, you see the period recovery guidelines across the world are like eat more, rest more, right? So yeah, okay, let me do that. Cut out intense exercise. All right, well, not really excited about it, but okay, yeah, I can do this. So I know for me, this was one of the first times in my life that I couldn't like rule follow or overachieve or work my ass off to get to the result. And it was maddening. And so you can't perfect your way into body safety. It's actually doing quite the opposite. You cannot force your body to trust you. And you certainly cannot like grin down and bear like, all right, I'm just going to eat more and I'm going to rest more and I'm just going to get my period back. But what happens after that? Because that can work. It can totally work. I'm not going to lie. But what happens after that? So I really want you to hear me when I say this. None of this does not mean you are doing period recovery wrong. What it means is two things. One, your effort does not meet what your body needs. Like just because you're working your ass off in period recovery and doing all the right things, that doesn't always mean that's exactly what your body needs. Right? So it's that gray area of your effort and what your body truly needs. And also, It means that period recovery is asking you to grow in a very different way. And I'm not gonna lie, like if someone was like, Cynthia, well, yeah, your period's not back yet. You've been doing all the food and rest. Well, maybe like the universe, God, whatever it is that you believe in is asking you to grow in a different way. I'd be like, F off. Like, just get me my period back. So if you're feeling that way, I totally understand. If you're feeling uncomfortable, if you're feeling frustrated, vulnerable, just terrified, like this is never going to work, this all makes huge sense. And so many of you are listening are women who are used to having effort create the results, right? Do X, get Y. If only life worked that way. I it'd make things much simpler. I would agree. But if you are a person that is used to structure, used to discipline, used to hard work paying off, used to being able to solve things, like you are the girl that is not going to rest until it gets done. You're not going to quit. You're used to doing more, learning more, trying harder, just getting it right. And so, likely, you have probably built a lot of your identity around being the woman who figures it all out and the woman who pushes through, the woman who doesn't give up, is disciplined, the one who could just do really hard shit. But at the same time, you also have people being like, which deepens this identity. Oh my gosh, like I'm going to use myself for an example. Oh my gosh, Cynthia, like how do you wake up and go to the gym every day? Like how do you pack all these healthy lunches? How do you like excel and work 3 jobs at once and make the honor society and be the leader of the food and nutrition club at college and all these things, right? And we're praised for that. And, then period recovery comes along and suddenly it's not working. And suddenly there's uncertainty, there's body change, there's waiting. There's no exact timeline, which leads to this big mind F of like, when is this going to end? Is it ever going to end? What's it going to take? And so there's no like gold star for doing recovery because even if you're like, all right, I'm eating more, I'm resting more, I'm doing nothing but period recovery. Well, first of all, what kind of life is that to live while, like you really just are going to isolate yourself and just do period recovery until you get it back? Because then what happens when it gets back? And so even if you do get that gold star of saying like, I got a period back, are you going to be able to maintain it at the same effort that you put in? Or is life going to look really crazy and unpredictable? So I just want to say, of course, at this point, the brain wants to jump in, try to control everything. It wants to scan, like, okay, did I eat this? Did I eat that? How many calories are in this? Should I count? Am I reaching the 2,500 minimum? Or, which I just want to say, 2,500 there is science back. Dr. Sykes is an amazing author of the book No Period Now What. However, every body is completely different. So I just want to throw that out there. There's no magic number. There's no magic amount of movement that is going to bring your period back. Everybody is so different. And so when this rule following thing doesn't work, or this, not overachieving, but rule following, doing all the right things, being determined, being disciplined. I was the same way. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to do period recovery. I'm going to eat. I'm going to cut out all that. I got this. And then when I didn't get the results, I was just like questioning everything. Everything was in my head about everything. Well, maybe if it's not working, I should go back to working out because I really miss it. And, I'm not going to live my life like this. Maybe it's not going to happen for me. And I've already gained so much weight. Oh my gosh, you guys, there was a time where I was going through recovery and I had gained weight. And my grandmother was like, and I wanted to get pregnant. I knew I couldn't. My grandmother was like, hey, Cynthia, are you pregnant? And I'm like, no, why? I shouldn't even asked why because I knew why. I'd clearly changed. My body had changed. And she said, well, you look a little heavier. Oh my gosh, you guys, it was like a gut punch, a gut punch. And prior to that moment, it was like, all right, I I'm eating more, I'm resting more, I'm doing all the right things. I felt so uncomfortable in my body. I felt so ashamed. I was a CrossFitter. I was invited to these CrossFit weddings that people are getting married. I had to dress up and oh my God, it was the worst. It was the worst. So I don't want to go too far down that hole, but what I'm trying to say is that, you know, your brain is going to constantly monitor, it's going to scan, it's going to ask a million questions, it's going to try to justify, it's going to ask, am I doing enough? Am I doing this right? What if it never works for me? Am I the exception? I would say if I had to do a percentage, probably like 8 out of 10 women are like, maybe it's just not me. Like maybe I'm just not, I'm going to be that woman that doesn't get her period back. And that is a lot of inner self-talk that is like, okay, I'm used to achieving and getting and doing the things and getting the results, but this is why isn't this working for me? So am I gaining weight for nothing? What if I'm not doing enough? What if I mess this up? What if I do all this and I don't get my period back and I've gained 1,000,000 pounds and then I'm even more miserable than I started? And so if that's you, I just want to normalize something. This does not mean your body is broken. Does not mean you're being dramatic, you're being bitchy, you're being negative, you're failing, you're being bad at recovery. It just means that all of that stuff, that what if, all those what ifs is just your brain trying to protect you. And which is really great of our brains, but it's great to be protected, but also it's holding us back. And so because underneath a lot of these thoughts is not actually failure, underneath is something more like, please make this make sense. Please help me feel safe. Please make sure I do not fail. Please help me avoid regret. Please do not let me do all of this and not get the outcome I want. Please help me avoid not feeling loved, right? Not feeling like we're worthy because we were worthy before by other people's comments about how disciplined we were and how amazing and how they wish they could be just like us. And so this is something I want you to understand. Um, Again, your brain is not trying to punish you, it's just trying to protect you. Now, does it always protect you in a way? Like I said, that's actually helpful. No. But it makes sense. And that's why shaming ourselves, at any point, it really helps here. And after listening to this podcast, if you're like, oh my God, I shouldn't be doing that, or I shouldn't be questioning this, shouldn't. Compassion. Let's bring in the compassion. Because if you're just mean to yourself or spiraling, you're usually adding more stress onto a nervous system that is already overwhelmed, right? Our nervous system was overwhelmed by not having a period. Now we're eating more, resting more, right? And so maybe it's starting to come back online, but then we're questioning the heck out of everything. I'm not saying it's negating things, but it's not making things easier. And this is why period recovery is often the first place women hit the limits of overfunctioning. Um, and when I say that is like overfunctioning, you might say, well, I don't overfunction. If someone told me like way back when, oh, Cynthia, you're overfunctioner. Can I tell you what I was doing for overfunctioning? Well, and I didn't think I was working 3 jobs, one full-time job, 2 part-time jobs. I was building a granola business. And I was seeing clients on the side and I was working out for 1 to 2 hours a day in the morning, half-hour run at night. And if someone were to told me I was overfunctioning, I'd be like, no, I'm not. I'm just like doing what I need to do. I want to work 3 jobs. Like I want to go to the gym. This is all healthy for me. Now, granted, I was never sitting down. I was never resting. And even when I knew what I had to do for period recovery, the rest was like, oh my God, I'm going to gain so much weight. Oh my God, like, what are people going to think? Oh my God, what if this doesn't work? So all those what if. So although I was resting, it really wasn't, my mind was not resting at all. So, you know, we can't overfunction our way into period recovery. We can't make sure we're checking all the boxes and doing all the things like rest, like eating food, but then in the back of our heads, just be questioning all the things. And so a lot of women, including myself, have built an identity around being good at difficult things, right? I went to college. I got a friggin' master's degree in a year. Well, of course I could do anything hard. That is that is a kind of hard that's yes, it's hard, right? Obviously, if it was easy, I won't go to college, but that's a kind of hard that's like logically hard. There's not feelings involved. There's a lot of feelings involved in recovery. There's like, what are people going to think? Am I still going to be loved and connected and safe? And like, there's a lot of feels. And I just think back to a time where I would cry like once a week because, yeah, I was completing my master's degree while my friends were out like partying and stuff. And I was like, I don't know, 23, 24 at the time. And so that crying had nothing on period recovery, nothing at all. And the fact that I knew at that time I couldn't become a mom, hmm, cue, huge mind F. So being disciplined, being productive, being the one who figures it out all out, being the one who pushes through discomfort, being able to override when they feel and keep going. This is another thing I just thought of is I remember when I first met my partner, he's like, you know, he's done all these like hard trail races and stuff, 50 miles and just really hard stuff. And he's like, yeah, I could do hard things. And I was like, "Mm." I was like, yeah, that is hard physically, you know, a little bit mentally. Um, but to me, the really hard things are potentially mentally things we haven't even dealt with. And are we using those hard things like ultra running, like studying extra hard to tap out of the feels of maybe other discomforts that are going on in our life? Um, and he's like, I never thought about that. I just thought I was doing really hard things. And I'm like, well, you are technically, but what about like the other like mental things that we might have to get through? And to me, this period recovery. Right. And so, you know, period recovery often asks for the opposite of the productivity, the discipline, but we have just only functioned that way for most of our lives. I know it was for me. That's the only way I functioned. That's the only way I knew how to function productive, discipline, pushes through. But period recovery often asks for the opposite, the slowing down, trusting, receiving, being consistent without immediate proof, allowing the body to lead, allowing the body to be taken care of in a way that's gentle instead of urgent. So, and it can feel deeply uncomfortable because this is not just changing behaviors, it's really challenging our identities and how we made it to this point in our lives. So, it's really asking, who am I? If I can't push through this, if I can't do this, who am I if I don't get to earn this like safe feeling with performing and period recovery? Like, okay, I'm eating more carbs, I'm eating more fat. Who am I if I cannot measure my way into certainty? Cue tracking. Okay, what's the cervical mucus mean? Oh my gosh, my temp was up, it was down. And while those sometimes are important things to track, are you focusing too much on them as well? And so it's really hard to, you know, you can know if you're making progress in recovery, right? With some things, hormonal signs, PBT increase, but really you're still looking for the period and it hasn't come yet. And how are we super certain that it's actually coming? And this is one of the things we do inside our program is that we are tracking these hormonal signs. So, you know, you have proof that your hard work is paying off because that's super important to my women that I work with. Like we can't expect to just, you know, okay, let me just eat more and rest more. There's got to be some structure involved, right? So, and that's a big reason why women start to feel like they're just freaking losing their shit over period recovery. And they aren't losing it all. They're bumping into a pattern that helped me, help so many of my clients feel safe in other areas, but now it's not helping here. And I'm going to say this word again. It's like you're going mad sometimes. So I want to explain a little bit behind this, the science behind this in a very simple, grounded way. So when your body has been under stress, whether the stress came from underfueling, overexercise, emotional stress, perfectionism, um, unpredictability, some combination of all the things, and just like shout out to um, women that think that their periods are still missing because they're stressed or um, they're not sleeping well. It has a contributing factor, but it all comes down a lot of times to the energy availability and the nervous system support. So, and also those that may have be early on in the journey, your period doesn't go missing for a super long time just because you're stressed from work. So, or stress from anything particularly. It's usually an energy availability thing. So your brain and nervous system are always asking, am I safe? Do I have enough? Can I trust what's happening here? And when recovery feels uncertain, the brain is like, oh, alert, alert, alert. It scans, it monitors, it checks for danger. It tries to get ahead of the pain by thinking through every possible outcome. And the brain doesn't do this just with period recovery. It does it with anything that is uncertain. So this is why so many women feel like they're eating more, they're resting more, but they do not feel the calmness, the safety. Because creating this safety in the body, yes, it does require food and rest, but it's not just about the action. It's about what is happening internally while you are doing the action. So now that doesn't mean you need to have perfect thoughts to recover. Like, I cannot, I just have to think these unicorn and butterfly thoughts. It doesn't mean that you have to become like a Zen master to get your period back. It does not mean you cannot be scared, right? It just means it helps to notice when your mind is constantly sending your body the message that something is wrong. And, that is why I say all the time, recovery is just not asking you to eat more and exercise less. It's asking you to stop treating your body like a problem to solve and start relating to it like something to care for. And I want to say that again because I think some of you might need to hear it again, is that recovery is not asking you to eat more and exercise less. That's the only thing. It's not asking you for just that. It's asking you to stop treating your body like a problem to solve. And so before I go into a few tools, I want to share a client story because I think this will land for a lot of you. So I had a client who didn't have her period before we started working together for 15 years. 15 years. So for some of you, you might be listening, you might be 18, 19, 20 years old. That's not much more than you've been alive. So that's a long time. And on paper, she was doing all the things right. She ate more. She rested more. She was working super hard at recovery. She was checking all the boxes. She was doing everything she thought she needed to do. And for so many women, this is where it gets a bit tricky and rather painful because when you're doing everything right on paper and still not getting the result, it can start to feel like maybe your body is the problem. Maybe you're the exception. Maybe this is not going to work for you. Maybe you need to start tweaking it more. And what came really clear to her was that yes, there was foundational things that we needed to support. Like she was definitely not eating enough carbs. She was not eating enough fat. She wasn't not eating enough throughout the day. So there absolutely was things there. There was still fears of eating more than her husband. They were both very tall. Uh, people. And she's like, that felt uncomfortable at first. And then it became easier. But one of the biggest missing pieces was that her body had not experienced enough slowing down. So, not just physically, just internally. So, she was carrying so much urgency, so much pressure, so much, like maybe I won't become a mom. She was trying so hard to get it right. And I just want to pull up my phone and share some of the things that she said to me. She had said, she's having all the symptoms and she's just like, what the hell? And she bought more clothes to make her body feel better because her body was changing. And she also started to do other things because she's like, I'm doing, like, I cannot, like, I literally cannot eat anymore. And I looked at her food logs, like, she was doing a freaking fantastic job after we started working together, so I couldn't bombard her with any more food. And so we started talking about things that, like, what else could we be doing to get us out of our head about this? We're checking the boxes of the food and rest. And so, she was just carrying so much pressure. Like, she's like, I'm doing all the right things, so much just doing and just trying to get it right, until one day she's like, all right, I need to slow down. I need to relax. And it wasn't overnight, like, all right, I'm just gonna do all the things, because it was like, well, I'm productive. I'm, the get shit done kind of girl. Like, I'm gonna do this. And when it wasn't working anymore for her, she's like, all right. And not to say that it wasn't working. It was still working in the background, right? Enough food, you're seeing signs and symptoms. If your signs and symptoms like completely stop for weeks, then like obviously something's going on. You're probably not eating enough, or you cut back, or you started to get scared because you don't think it's working. So, so she had said, she's still eating and so forth, but she said to me, I've let go of a lot of expectations and adopted a let it go and let it grow mentality. As silly as it may be, my husband got me Jaws Lego set for my birthday, and I finished it last night and it was without a doubt the most fun and relaxing thing I've ever done for myself as an adult in a long time. And then she also shared this book that she got, which was like a kind of a daily devotional book. And she said, I can't say enough good things about it. And it's exactly what I needed to hear every day. So she just needed a little bit of, talking, hearing these positive things. And the book was called Simple Abundance, a day book of comfort and joy. And so she also shared another simple thing I'm trying to do is bring joy with everything I'm doing. When I'm upgrading clothes, I'm trying to buy bright, fun colors instead of black and white. I'm painting my nails. I've read a quick passage from the book, and more of a spiritual book than a religious book, and either would work. And, before I get out, drink a fun glass of something, and leaning into all the good vibes and telling myself that everything I'm trying to do is actually working. And how amazing is that? So, yeah. And so she went on to find amazing synchronicities in her path to her period. And she shared how she was listening to breakfast, or she was listening to music while she was making breakfast, and her husband put on this really cool like coffee house 50s music song. And while he was cleaning up, she was reading her daily devotional book, and she just found so many synchronicities. And the the I guess the title of the daily devotion was Harmony, Achieving Balance in Our Lives. So yeah, she has went on to do some incredible work that just stepped outside after she knew she was eating enough food and doing enough rest. Um, she was able to start to tap into those things that brought her nervous system down more. And it also brought more joy into her life that she was not experiencing, because she was so, gotta get it done, gotta get my period back, whatever it takes. Um, and of course, I mean, said no woman ever, like, yeah, I want to gain all the weight. But her body needed more than effort. It needed steadiness. It needed safety. It needed joy. It needed play. It needed fun. It needed her to slow down enough so that her system could just like stop bracing for the worst case scenario, and she could stop living out of her head and start experiencing life. And I share that because I know women that are listening right now who are doing so much right on paper, but still feeling mentally like blah inside. And that inner experience matters so much more than you think. Because when you are mentally checking all day, monitoring all the things, future tripping, and trying to really solve recovery around the clock, it can really keep your whole system in a state of urgency. And plus, like, do you really want to live your life like that? And you might say, well, I don't know, like I don't know any different. Like that's just working for me. It's always worked for me. But I want you to think about how it really serves you in the greater good of the woman you want to become. And so this is where I want to gently say something I think a lot of women need to hear. Many women do not stay stuck because they don't have enough information. We have all the information in the world. We have books, we have Instagram, we have podcasts. They stay stuck because they're trying to coach themselves into whatever it may be while they're still inside spiraling. And they're trying to be the practitioner, the patient, the motivator, the rational voice, and the support system all at once. And that is friggin' exhausting. Okay, so let me give you a few tools here, not because they're like the most magical tools and they're just gonna voila, make your period appear, but they're going to support you. And these tools aren't like, oh my God, I'm gonna do these tools and it's just gonna automatically come back. They are tools to practice because getting out of your head is a practice. It does not happen overnight. It is not a one time fix. It's a continual practice of noticing when you have left that present moment and when you have spiraled into fear, when you're trying to control what cannot be controlled, and then gently bringing yourself back to your body, back to what is true today, and back to what is actually being asked. That is the work here. And this first tool is a tool I like to use when you notice yourself spiraling. So give the pattern a name. So you can say, I am future tripping. I am in my head. I am doing the crazy lady thing. I'm trying to solve uncertainty without overthinking. Think of it could just even be like I'm leaving the present moment. So try to think of maybe a one worder or a one liner. And so this might sound simple, but it's really powerful because naming the pattern creates separation from it. Instead of becoming the spiral, you are starting to notice the spiral. The second tool is to come back to today. This is especially powerful for women who are stuck in timeline anxiety. I know I was, especially I wanted to have a baby, I was having babies around me. What is true today? What have I actually been asked to do today? What is within my control today? What is not mine to solve? So sometimes even sitting there with your hand over your heart, taking a breath in, making sure your legs are uncrossed, and just grounding into just being like, what is mine to solve today? Right? What is within my control today? And because so much suffering happens when your mind is living 6 weeks ahead, 6 weeks back, 6 months ahead, where your body actually is. And so the third tool is called the body anchor. And before you try to think your way through everything, I just want you to ask yourself, can I come back to my body first? Feet flat on the floor, hands on your chest, soften that jaw. Oh my gosh, my jaw is the first thing to become tense, all through my neck here too. And clench your hands. Lengthen your exhale because when fear gets loud, most women go right up in their head. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes I do too. I'm absolutely not perfect. And one of the most supportive things that you can do is just come back into your body, into your body. The fourth tool is a recovery permission phrase. So a few things that I love is I do not need to solve my whole recovery today. Like I just don't. I don't need to figure it out all today. My body is allowed to take time. Uncertainty does not mean failure. Consistency matters more than panic. I can be in the process without being in danger. And these aren't just like cute little phrases. You definitely use different ones, but these are phrases to help interrupt that urgency that we're feeling or that like angst, panic. So the fifth tool is the mental checking. So a lot of women confuse constant monitoring with being responsible. So instead of analyzing recovery 24/7, give yourself like a 10-minute window each day to like reflect, journal, process, or bring your thoughts into a supportive space. And these are the same things I share with my clients. I'm like, I don't want you to spiral. Like, come here. This is what this very, very supportive and safe space is for. And so outside of that window, come back to living, come back to your meal, your family, your partner, your husband, your children. Come back to your work, back to your walk, to the sunshine, to the birds chirping. It's freaking spring. Come back to life. Because part of recovery is just not doing recovery. It's really relearning how to be fully in your life again. And that is such a big deal. And I want you to ask yourself what helps you leave your mind and return to your life. Is it a gentle walk outside? Not like a 3 mile walk, not like a 6 mile walk, not like I got to get 10 K steps in a day, but like walking outside, listening to the birds, feeling the sunshine on your back. Is it music? Oh my gosh, music had helped me so much during my toughest times. Calling a friend that isn't going to give you like crap advice or the advice that you're wanting to hear. Like, "Oh my gosh, you're doing fine. I don't know why your period's not back yet." Like, no, not a friend that's gonna validate the talking that's going on in your head. Gardening, reading, crafting, sitting in the sun, having a meal with someone, doing something playful. Like when I shared my client's little tidbit of her story of things that she started to do, play was one of them. And I just want to say, as an adult, you can play. I 10 out of 10 recommend it. And it's actually something that I really brought into recovery that helped me tons. So, doing something creative, whatever it is that matters, because for so many women, recovery becomes the only thing they can see, the only thing they can think about, the only thing they can measure their day by. And that is such a painful way to live. And I don't want you to live that way. So, before we close up here, I want to give you guys a few journaling prompts, and I really want you to hear this part. Um, the thoughts you hear all day are not your deepest truths. They are often your loudest fears. And so, if you're journaling after this episode, here's a few places to start. First, notice the spiral. Okay. What thoughts do I loop on most in recovery? When do these thoughts tend to get louder? What am I usually trying to figure out, control, or prevent in these moments? Second, get underneath the thought. If I slow down that thought, what am I really afraid of? What feels most uncertain for me in the season? What feels like it's at a stake if period recovery does not go the way I want it to? What is at stake? Then, third, the pattern. How have I handled uncertainty in other parts of my life? What else have I tried to overachieve, overthink, and control my way into safety? What identity or role is being challenged in my recovery right now? And fourth, I want you to create a new response. And which of these tools that we talked about here today on the podcast feel most supportive for me right now? What would support look like instead of spiraling? What does my body need to hear from me when fear gets louder? And what would it look like to respond with steadiness instead of this urgency, or calmness instead of urgency? And one final thing is, what do I want to practice believing when I cannot yet prove the outcome? That one gets me every time. What do I want to practice believing when I cannot yet prove the outcome? So, do you want to practice believing that you will become a mom one day, that you will get your period back one day, that you will go on to run your half marathon, that you'll go on to be the strongest version of yourself with a regular period? It could be anything. So, if you are listening to this and feeling seen, but also realizing how mentally exhausting this process has become for you, I want you to hear this with every single bit of love from my heart to yours. You are not failing. Your body is not broken because this feels really heavy and hard. And you're not behind. You're not behind. Even if you feel like, oh my gosh, all my friends are having babies and I don't even have a period, you are not behind. I promise you are not behind. I felt the same way too. You're not doing recovery wrong because you still have this fear. So this is a practice. Like just like we practiced our way into lifting a certain weight or becoming a like, super awesome runner in college, this is a practice, but in a different way. This is unwinding old ways of coping. This is learning how to be uncertain with uncertainty without completely abandoning yourself. And maybe, again, this is the part of recovery that is here to teach you. This is not just about getting your period back, but it's how to become the woman who no longer needs to control everything to feel okay. And if you're also realizing that you do not need more information, you need support, real support, individualized support, support that is going to help you stop spiraling, actually understand what your body needs. That is the exact kind of work we do in the Recipe for a Period program. Because so often that missing piece is not another podcast, not another article, not another thing to try on your own. It's actually someone to help you see what you cannot see when you're inside of this all. And so if this episode hit home, you're tired of doing this alone, send me a DM telling me you listened to this episode, or just click the link in the show notes and you can fill out a 4-minute form to apply to the Recipe for a Period program to see if this is the next best step forward for you. Because support is not about someone like doing recovery for you. It's someone helping you find those missing pieces. And so that you don't have to carry all of this we just talked about for the past 40 minutes here. So I hope this helped you understand your mind a little bit more. And I hope it reminded you that recovery is just not about getting a period back. It's also about becoming a woman who feels safer in her body, safer in uncertainty, and more able to fully live and embrace the life she was put on this planet Earth to live. So your body doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to come from a place that is safe, safer to live in. So I will see you all, guys. And I will see all you amazing women in a couple weeks. And I'm sending you all the love, all the strength. And I'm here rooting for you every step of the way.